So I just had my lunch and I'm now having my matcha and my berries. And in this video, I want to talk about my thoughts about my permanent place to stay once I decide to retire. I'm only 40 right now, I know. I mean, if I follow the traditional path, most people retire around their 60s or even 70s. But to be honest, I've never really been the type who follows the rules. So my personal goal is to retire before I turn 50, hopefully even earlier. And hmm, that's so sour. Now, I feel like I have a different definition of retirement because for most people, uh, retirement means completely stopping work and just enjoying life, spending time with your family, resting, or maybe traveling. And if you were able to build a business before retiring, then that becomes your main focus. I guess for me, retirement doesn't mean doing completely nothing. For me, it means I no longer want to work for someone else and I want to spend that time building a life for myself, creating my own income, and doing things on my own terms. Because at the end of the day, even if you want to spend time with your family and friends, I mean, they also have their own lives, right? So they will not always be by your side every single day. There will still be days when you are alone. And obviously, I'm okay with that. I actually enjoy being alone. I love my own company. So for me, spending time with others, with my family or with my friends is just a bonus, but I don't really want to depend on it. So yeah, that's kind of my own version of retirement. I mix this with a small amount of the bad matcha, and luckily I couldn't taste the unpleasant bitterness, so it still tastes perfectly good for me. So I'm having strawberries, blackberries, raspberry, and berries. The berries family is complete here. Now, the reason I started thinking about all of this is because earlier, while I was having my lunch, I was watching YouTube as usual, and I came across a few videos that really caught my attention. And one of them being this woman in her late 30s who is already preparing for her permanent retirement home. And that made me think about my future as well. I sometimes think about this a lot, especially since I don't really see myself getting married or having kids. I don't know if that will change in the future, but right now that's where I am. So I've been going back and forth between two options. Should I buy a house and lot or should I just live in a condominium? Of course, I'm still referring to the years when I'm physically strong and, mentally healthy, when I'm still able to take care of myself independently. I'm not talking about the stage in life where I would need to stay in a care home or rely heavily on others for my daily needs. Although, to be fair, I'm totally open and cool with considering that option when the time comes, especially if I reach a point where I can no longer do simple things on my own, like taking a shower or walking comfortably or even getting out of bed without feeling any pain. But for now, what I'm really talking about is that phase of life where I'm still strong, active, and capable of doing things for myself, both physically and mentally. So originally, I always imagined the traditional path, like owning a house and lot, something you can truly call your own, something that is 100% yours. But over time, I've seen a lot of real life situations that made me rethink that idea. These are basically stories from people that I know personally, like friends, coworkers, or even people that I've just watched online. For example, I've seen people work abroad for years, saving all this money to build their dream house back home. But since they're not physically there, they rely heavily on relatives to help them manage everything for them. So they simply send the money, and the relatives handle the constructions, the labor, everything that's included in the building process of the house. But when they finally come home, the house doesn't really feel like it's theirs anymore because the relatives are living in the house already. Because initially, after the house was built, just to make the house feel homey, they let their relatives live there for a while. So the original plan is that once they retire and go home for good, these so-called relatives will move out of the house and they will take over. But it didn't happen. Apparently, the owner of the house is feeling a bit awkward to ask the relatives to move out of the house. So overall, it just feels like they are the ones adjusting, like they are the ones who's just sharing space in their own house. And because of cultural reasons, especially in Asian families, it's very hard to ask relatives to leave. It feels kind of disrespectful. So if I ever build a house, I wanted to make sure that I am there physically present during the whole process. And then there's another situation that I saw, another video. This time the owners were actually able to live in the house, but they started noticing all of these problems: poor constructions, cheap materials, things not done properly. And in places like the Philippines, where floods and typhoons are so common, these issues become even more serious. Even if the location is good, if the structure itself is weak, it becomes a huge problem. And the worst part is it's already too late. Fixing those mistakes means spending even more money now. So again, that kind of made me hesitate whether I really wanted to build a house and lot, whether I am physically there overseeing the entire process, because I don't really understand constructions. I don't really understand building materials. So I might get ripped off in the long run. But of course, there are reliable companies that supply these high quality materials, but for sure, it will also cost you more. So, but yeah, those are just some simple things that kind of made me think a little about building your own house. And now, when I think about my own situation, most likely it will just be me who's gonna live in the house, or maybe me and my sister, because it looks like she's also not planning to get married and have kids. And that's when I start thinking about being practical. Like with a house, yes, you have full control. You can design everything, decorate however you want it, but you also have to handle every single little details. Maintenance, repairs, and the most important thing for me is safety. Even with simple things like changing a light bulb in a high ceiling, because I want a house with a very high ceiling. So that can become a concern. I think that's also one reason why I started considering condominiums, because in a condo, there's 24 hours security and maintenance. There are maintenance staff who can help fix things like plumbing, lights, repairs at any given time. You just have to schedule or call them. And even if you live alone, you'll not really feel completely alone, if that makes any sense, because technically there are people around you who's living in the next apartments. There is a sense of quiet community, something like that. Plus, condos usually have amenities like a gym or a pool, and they are often located near supermarkets, hospitals, and transportations. Even in provinces now, there are condos in quieter areas, but still close to everything you need. Of course, a house also has its own advantages, more space, more freedom. And I love the idea of having a small garden in the future where I can plant flowers or maybe even fruits or vegetables and grow my own food, right? But honestly, I'm not even sure if I have a green thumb because I have, oh yeah, I have one plant that is really like blossoming beautifully, but the rest of the plants are just like, they look like they're on their very last breath of life. So I'm not really sure if I would be able to maintain a garden, but yeah, okay, you'll never know if you never try. Another thing is the location. Of course, location matters a lot to me. Like my dream place to live before is like right next to the mall. And since I was able to experience that here in Dubai, I mean, it's a great thing. Like, if you want to watch a movie, you can just simply take a few walks to the mall. It's not really important to me anymore. What I'm truly looking for now in a place or location is I do want to live somewhere with lots of small cafes, places I can walk to, sit, relax, and just enjoy my own personal time. Because I also don't plan on buying a car. I mean, I still want to learn how to drive, but owning a car doesn't make sense for me anymore, especially in this economy. I'm pretty much a homebody, and a car will probably just sit in the garage. So if I ever need one, I can just simply rent. I think that's also why I haven't bought any property yet. People say, ah, at your age, you should already have this, you should already invest in that, blah, blah, blah. But I think my mindset keeps changing over time. I mean, what I wanted last year is totally different from what I wanted now. And I don't want to make a big decision, especially if I'm not physically there to manage and see the whole process. I already had one experience with that. When I was still new here in Dubai, I immediately invested in a property and I wasn't there. It was my siblings who were, it's a long story, but it did not end up well. So we just did not continue with that property, in short. These are just thoughts I have been having, and I'm really curious if anyone from you, my viewers or my subscribers, are in your 30s or maybe 40s, 50s, or even already retired. Like, how did you decide where to settle? Like, did you choose a house or did you decided to stay with a family's house, a condo? I would really appreciate hearing your experiences and advice because I would love to learn from you guys and to get ideas that will definitely be a huge help in the long run. And for me, I don't really need a big space anymore. I mean, right now I live in this small studio around 20 plus square meters and I feel completely fine. I don't feel suffocated because I don't have a lot of stuff. Majority of the apartments here in Dubai have a very high ceiling, and I think that's one reason why I prefer to live in a house with a high ceiling as well in the Philippines because it gives the illusion of the place looking more bigger, very bright, and very open. And if I ever build a home, I'd probably keep it very simple as well. Maybe just add a balcony for sunlight, like a small place for my plants. And I'm even considering tiny houses. I'm not really thinking about those huge houses that look scary at night and probably feel scary at night as well. I just want something simple and very easy to maintain. Those pre-built homes that can be installed quickly. I think it's called prefabricated homes that kind of like Legos because they can be built in a very short amount of time and it can also be transferred anywhere if needed. At this stage of my life, I just want things to be extremely simple and easy and not complicated. I think now what matters most to me is a safe location, not flood prone, peaceful environment, and again, 24/7 security. I guess those are my thoughts for today for this video. I hope I did not bore you. Anyway, thank you for listening, guys. I'll see you on my next one. Bye.